Now, let's move into further details of cardiac muscles. The heart is composed of three major types of cardiac muscle: atrial muscle, ventricular muscle, and specialized excitatory and conductive muscle fibers. The atrial and ventricular types of muscle contract in much the same way as skeletal muscle, except that the duration of contraction is much longer. The specialized excitatory and conductive fibers of the heart, however, contract feebly because they contain few contractile fibrils. Instead, they exhibit automatic rhythmical electrical discharge in the form of action potentials, or conduction of the action potentials through the heart, providing an excitatory system that controls the rhythmical beating of the heart. Now, moving towards cardiac muscle anatomy. Cardiac muscle fibers arranged in a latticework, with the fibers dividing, recombining, and then spreading again. Cardiac muscle is striated in the same manner as in skeletal muscle. Furthermore, cardiac muscle has typical myofibrils that contain actin, and myosin filaments almost identical to those found in skeletal muscle. These filaments lie side by side and slide during contraction in the same manner as occurs in skeletal muscle. In other ways, however, cardiac muscle is quite different from skeletal muscle, as we shall see. Now let's discuss that left ventricular rotation or twist aids left ventricular ejection and relaxation. The left ventricle is organized into complex muscle fiber layers that run in different directions and allow the heart to contract in a twisting motion during systole. The subepicardial or outer layer spirals in a leftward direction, and the subendocardial or inner layer spirals in the opposite direction, that's rightward, causing clockwise rotation of the apex of the heart and counterclockwise rotation of the base of the left ventricle. This causes a ringing motion of the left ventricle, pulling the base downward toward the apex during systole or contraction. At the end of systole, the left ventricle is similar to a loaded spring, and recoils or untwists during diastole or relaxation to allow blood to enter the pumping chambers rapidly. Moving forward, while the dark areas crossing the cardiac muscle fibers in are called intercalated discs, they are actually cell membranes that separate individual cardiac muscle cells from one another. That is, cardiac muscle fibers are made up of many individual cells connected in series and in parallel with one another. At each intercalated disc, the cell membranes fuse with one another to form permeable communicating junctions, or gap junctions, that allow rapid diffusion of ions. Therefore, from a functional point of view, ions move with ease in the intracellular fluid along the longitudinal axis of the cardiac muscle fibers, so that action potentials travel easily from one cardiac muscle cell to the next, past the intercalated discs. Thus, cardiac muscle is a syncytium of many heart muscle cells, in which the cardiac cells are so interconnected that when one cell becomes excited, the action potential rapidly spreads to all of them. The heart actually is composed of two syncytia: the atrial syncytium, which constitutes the walls of the two atria, and the ventricular syncytium, which constitutes the walls of the two ventricles. The atria are separated from the ventricles by fibrous tissue that surrounds the atrioventricular, or AV valvular openings between the atria and ventricles. Normally, potentials are not conducted from the atrial syncytium into the ventricular syncytium directly through this fibrous tissue. Instead, they are only conducted by way of a specialized conductive system called the AV bundle, a bundle of conduct fibers several millimeters in diameter. This division of the muscle of the heart into two functional syncytia allows the atria to contract a short time ahead of ventricular contraction, which is important for the effectiveness of heart pumping. This was all about this section. In our next section, we will talk about the action potential in cardiac muscles.
Explore our extensive library of over 1,800 video lectures to learn about a wide range of topics. Only on sqadia.com.